next up, Wednesday, New Mexico State, Jacksonville State. We've got Jacksonville State, 20.5-point home favorites, 57.5 the total in this game. We talked a little bit last week, C-Mac, about how Jacksonville State's kind of been disappointing this year. But certainly the last two games, they've gotten their act together after losing to Coastal and getting blown out in their season opener at home. They get whipped by Louisville. They lose on the road at Eastern Michigan. But boy, oh boy, have they turned things around. And certainly offensively they have in the last two games. We think of this Rich Rod offense, up-tempo, spread, run-first offense, and how they can quickly put up points. They play at one of the fastest paces and tempos in college football. And we're certainly seeing signs of that the last few games. And really, I think what we're seeing is twofold. Tyler Huff is really becoming a weapon at quarterback for Jacksonville State. Tyler Huff is throwing the ball better, and more importantly, he's running the football extremely well. He's already got 445 rushing yards in 5 games this season running the football from the quarterback spot. So again, he's a great fit for this offense. You can see why he's starting, because Rich Rod wants it to be run first. He wants quarterback runs. He wants the RPO game as part of this offensive system for it to be at its best. And I think Tyler Huff is starting to figure it out. And we've seen this offense just absolutely light it up. Even the Eastern Michigan game, we saw signs of this offense starting to get going. 34, 44, and 63 points. Now, the last two games are against absolutely sorry opponents, right? Southern Miss and Kennesaw State. So we can't go overboard with the praise and overboard with how impressed we are with Jacksonville State. But the problem is, I don't know how much better New Mexico State is. They did get a point spread cover against Liberty at home, 30-24. It was the one game where they looked pretty solid, but they're 1-4 against the spread on the year. They didn't cover a number outside of that. And as a dog, you would think that this team might be a team you could back getting all these points, but 48-0 loss at Fresno, failed to cover as 20-point dogs. 31-11 loss against Sam Houston State on the road. They failed to cover as 15-point dogs. And then a 50-40 loss to New Mexico in the in-state rivalry game in their last game. Santino Marucci is not exactly a quarterback that is impressing me at the moment this year. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 47.5% completion rate. That's horrific. You're not even completing 50% of your passes. So that's a problem right now for New Mexico State. Quite honestly, it's probably one of the biggest downgrades at the quarterback spot from one year to the next in all of college football this year, New Mexico State. When you go from Diego Pavia to this guy, Santino Marucci, and his 47% completion rate. So that's not what you want to see. I'm not a big Tony Sanchez guy. You know that. I thought he obviously didn't do what Barry Odom's doing right now at UNLV when he was there. Jacksonville State's starting to show signs of it, and they've shown they could absolutely whip on bad teams the last 2 games. What's to stop them from whipping on another? I would honestly lean to JSU here. Jacksonville State, maybe a team total over on Jacksonville State if you're not comfortable laying the 20.5, but this could be another game where they just pile on the points here because that offense is starting to really hit their stride and find their confidence the last few weeks. Not to mention we've got a New Mexico State defense. How bad are they against the run, which is what Jacksonville State looks to do offensively the most? How about 133, just about dead last in run defense, 242.6 rushing yards per game allowed by this New Mexico State run defense. Horrific, and it's not what you want to see when you're playing a team like Jacksonville State. C-Mac, what do you think here? New Mexico State, Jacksonville State.
Yeah, we'll see how the weather is, because I think both these teams can score. And I think if you do like Jacksonville State, I would not lay it. I would take their team total. Just go that route, because both teams should be able to run it. Even New Mexico State last week, they gave up 330 to New Mexico, but they had, almost 290. And if they can do that, because Marucci, the quarterback, he's not very good. He was 13 of 29 last week. He didn't have a pick.
You should be serving bottles of wine at an Italian restaurant, not playing quarterback right now.
Yeah, but maybe that's in his future. But right now, he's playing quarterback for New Mexico State. But I have to say one thing, Vano. This defense for Jacksonville State is not good. For a team like Kennesaw State, who hadn't scored more than 17 points in 8 months or whatever, and for them to get 24, I mean, they ranked 120th overall. They haven't been good against the pass or the run, really. Jacksonville State. I thought this was a team bringing back 7 or 8 guys on defense, blah, blah, blah. That defense just isn't there. We know they want to play quick. I lean over in this game, too. I think there's just points there, but I just don't want to lay it. And I don't know in the end if I really want to grab. Maybe it's over 3 touchdowns with New Mexico State. I'm not so sure. I just think we get points in this one.
Yeah, you're right about Jacksonville State's defense. It's been leaky at times. Can New Mexico State, do enough offensively? I would say,
if they can, yeah. Here it is. I think, I think so.
It's possible. We'll see if they can do. I'll say this of the New Mexico State game. The New Mexico game, they did put up 40 in that game against New Mexico. It was all the run game though, and actually, to be honest with you, if you look at it for New Mexico State. They did have some offensive success, but a lot of it was shorter fields. They still only ended up having 400 yards. A lot of it was on the ground, though. The ground game really had a lot of success for New Mexico State in that game. Can it have success here against Jacksonville State is the question, because you look at Jacksonville State, their run defense, to be honest, 4.3 yards per carry. That's not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. 196.4 rushing yards per game allowed. They have to be able to run the football in New Mexico State, so maybe they can run it on – both teams might be able to run it on each other, because Jacksonville State's defense is mediocre. It's maybe slightly below average, which isn't great. And New Mexico State's run defense is pathetic. I mean, the numbers for New Mexico State's run defense are dreadful. So that's why it's hard to envision Jacksonville State not having offensive success here in this game. I mean, they're giving up 233 rushing yards per game, 5.7 yards per carry, almost 6 yards per every rush attempt being allowed by this New Mexico State team. That's not going to cut it against this team. That's a very big worry